Sundowns played to a 2-all draw against Al Hilal. And in this video, we're going to look at how that happened and how Sundowns are actually not as bad as people think. They're actually much better than people say. And we're also going to look at how they considered those 2 goals. Hello and welcome to the Cutback with me, Mpilo. Here we break down football matches, do match watch alongs, so do make sure to subscribe to this channel for more content like that. Okay, so let's start with Sundowns in attack. You see that they have their full backs, which is Umtau and Usbia, stretching the pitch as wide as possible. Then you have Sales, who's a right winger, inverting, becoming a 10. Also, you have Matthews inverting, becoming a 10. And now, there's also Santos, who is a 10. And these double pivots at the base to make sure that there's progression. And you can see clearly that this is exactly what they're trying to do. Have the ball and many passes in the middle as possible. So watch this. This is Tebogo Mokoena making a run. And as he runs, of course, he's going to be man-marked. Someone is going to follow him. And as that someone, whoever it is, follows him, that means there is now an opportunity to progress the ball into that space. But there's still a person standing there. So someone must make a movement that's going to remove him. And there is Sales making a run. And as he makes that run, he has removed that guy. Now, the ball can now be played to Matthews on the space that was created. When Matthews gets the ball, he has an option on Santos. But he doesn't play that ball to Santos. Instead, he plays it back. But since Sundowns have an extra man in that midfield, that means now Santos can receive the ball free. But then Umkoena puts too much weight on that pass, and then it goes back. Now, you will see this other thing about having these full backs wide. In fact, having 5 midfielders. Because if you have 5 midfielders, the team that you're playing against will prioritize stopping any central progression, which means there's all that space for Sbia, who can now receive the ball in that space and be able to kind of attack it. If he's at this point, you see that Al Hilal are defending facing their own goal. So he can play the ball through for Matthews, he can play the ball across for Motiba, who's running. But it's not just with Usbia. You can also see it on the right. You see that Umtao here is making a run, and there's no one marking him because, again, if you look at the Al Hilal defenders, they are all trying to make sure that there's nothing that happens central to a point that Mtao is free. But once again, what happens? The touch is just too heavy. So these are 2 goals that could have been scored already, but Sundowns could not score because of having heavy touches. And having 5 players in midfield also allows, easy passes to be played. Like if you look at this, the ball is played centrally, and as it goes forward, Matthews plays 1 touch, and then from that 1 simple touch, now Sundowns are through. And in this case, Matthews decides to shoot, but he could have easily passed the ball across. And then the Sundowns miss that chance. But also, this movement, if there is just 3 people in midfield making a movement, 1 person can track that person. But if it's a whole 3 players making a same movement, look at them, Sundowns players, all of them making a run towards the ball. And that drags the players of Al Hilal to one side. And also watch Motiba. He first goes backwards and then he engages that center back who now follows him, and he forgets about Sales. And Sales is now, he realizes now that center back that, there's someone who's actually running behind me. So when the ball is chipped behind, Sales has an advantage. He tries to dribble him, then there's a heavy touch, he scores. But in any case, if that had come off, he was still going to score. So it works again and again. Leon comes on for Mtiba, the system doesn't really change. What you see is the same thing that you saw in the first half. A lot of numbers centrally, and then defenders getting confused a lot. Like here, 2 defenders shown with an arrow are trying to both put pressure on Matthews. But with that pressure being put on Matthews, it creates 2 scenarios. The first scenario that it creates is that when the ball goes to Matthews, Leon is now 1v1 with the center back. But on top of that, now, since the secondary defender, this one, he's still focused on wanting to put some pressure in that midfield. But you see the problem that it creates. It means there is now a player who's making a run in behind. And when the ball is played to Leon, now the ball comes to Upasatin, like in this situation here, he plays the ball and then he can just chip the ball over because of that gap, and then Pasadin takes a shot, and in him taking that shot, he misses, unfortunately. Which made me ask my question. If the people who are going wide are making outside to in runs, why not just make it wingers then? Because their finishing is better than that of defenders. Now, let's look at something cool. Did you notice that the Sundowns corner was actually something that happened earlier in the 6th minute? Like, look at this. Sundowns play the corner early on in the match. The ball goes out to Tebogo Mokoena. And in this case, he takes a shot. Again, he just misses. And then fast forward, because they didn't learn a lesson, 57 minutes later, the same pass is played, and now the ball goes to Mokoena, who's again not marked. Someone is later marking him. He unleashes that rocket, and Sundowns are 1 goal up. They were scoring the second goal here. But these guys learned their lesson, because later on in the match, you could see now that if you look at this one, you see that there were only 2 people who came out to mark. If you look at the third one, now you can see that there is 3, and 1 is dedicated to marking the person who's supposed to be taking a shot. And as a result, in this case, they are forced to play the ball back into the box rather than marking whoever was out there. Now, after Sundowns scored this second goal, they then brought on Umrena and Pasadin. And that meant they were going to play Pasadin and Murena as wing backs and play a back 3 with Umdao being a right centre back. But then, seeing that they conceded quickly after this, the back 3 was still there in their early build-up, and they now had a box midfield, just 4 midfielders, and they still stretched the pitch. So they were still dangerous, even in this case, because as you can clearly see, they have numbers in the box, and the gaps between the defenders is big, because, they are wing backs, but also they have to stay central somewhat, because Leon is there doing his job, making sure that the defenders are staying with him. And you can see this system working. Again, in this case, you have Umrena inverting now, making that 5-man midfield again, because they were desperate and they wanted a goal. Now Umrena is in the box, is inside the midfield, and then that man right there is now confused. Initially was supposed to mark Umrena, but now he's also thinking about the pass going wide that's going to be dangerous. So he tries to block that passing lane, which opens another passing lane for Umrena. By the way, coaches, tell your players, leave the person who's wide. There is a full back who's going to mark him. But Asikolab, now a few moves later, Umrena finds a way, wiggles around, and now to the other wing back, which is Upasadin, who gets another good chance, but then he fails to do anything with it. So that sucks. And then, last but not least, the thing that we have to look at is how Sundowns considered their goals. The first one is this. Al Hilal were very intentional about their counters. Look at this. They are very narrow in their defending, as already seen. But now when they win the ball, look at how many of them are making forward runs. You see that the idea was, when you win the ball, you run forward as quickly as possible. And that's exactly what they did. And in their goal, you can see this clearly. The ball is crossed from a corner, and then they defend. But look at the guy who scores the goal eventually, Omer, a.k.a. Roof. He's the one who's now outside the box, because, he's the one who's trusted that he can give them something. And as the ball is now headed forward, he's still outside the box. As the ball moves, there he is. And then the other people are also joining him in the counter. And if you were to count the time from the ball, when the ball was headed, it's 14-18 initially. And then when the defender heads the ball forward, it's 14-22. And this is 14-26. And then a few seconds later, 14-36, they've scored a goal. So in a matter of 12 seconds, they move from one end to the other and they score a goal, which, if you think about it, is enough time for Sundowns to come back and recover, but they didn't. Now, watch this thing again. So what is happening here is that Sundowns, in this case, are now defending. They're 2-1 up. Every defender is making the line. Like, you watch them all, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's Basadin? Odd one out. And then when the ball is played, you can see that the other defenders seem to be stepping up. You can see the foot movement here. They are clearly trying to step up. Basadin is flat-footed. And by the time he looks around, when the pass is about to be played, he scans, and then he's just not active enough to recover there. He here comes back and eventually clears the ball, but it's not good enough. And Salez and Mkwena stop. They were running. Like if you look here, they were running towards the ball, then they stop when they see him trying to clear the ball. But he fails to clear it properly, and then the goal is scored, and then it's 2-2. So as much as Sundowns did not have as many shots, I also blame the players, and I think players should be blamed, because how many times did I talk about, oh, but the touch was too heavy? Because they did play some heavy touches. And at the end of the day, the coach gets all the blame. I can blame him from some of the things, like Johansson was not supposed to come on. Make Umtawe a centre back, continue making Umrena a right wing back, and attack the people. But he just wanted to be safe, even when he had enough defenders in the pitch. But how did you see the game? Let me know down in the comment section below. Subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you on the next one.